Episode 159. Hello, hello. Hey, Al. Hey, Ethan. Hey, world.
Hey, how are you?
This is coming off the back of episode 158.5. If you haven't heard it, go give it a listen, featuring Jeff Walker. I haven't gone back and listened to it yet, but I'm going to because I feel like it was good, although I was shivering like crazy. Pretty funny. So, Al, it was about a 1 year, almost to the dot, when we had Jeff Walker at our last class at East Fork.
Cool.
Right around this time last year. And we did a mini pod at the end of class. Same way, just kind of makeshift setup, which works really well. It's pretty easy to do, especially with the wireless mics. It's very easy to make happen. And it starts out fine, but there's something about sitting there. And I don't know if like the temperature dropped or if it's just because you're sitting still or what, but it was simultaneously about 15 to 20 minutes in to the mini pod with Jeff. I just see his teeth starting to chatter and my teeth are chattering. I'm like, okay, no. I think we're good.
Yeah, well, in my defense, when I set it up, we were like somewhat in the sun still. And then we did one quick interview before that for our vlog. And then out of nowhere, the sun just like disappeared so quick. And then we were in full shade. I was even behind the camera, like laughing, but like shaking the whole time. It's unbearable.
Wow.
Just teeth.
Killer. So it was warmer this time or no?
Chattering. It did definitely start warmer for sure. And then, yeah, it just, as soon as that sun went behind the trees just a little bit, teeth chattering. But
yeah, so Jeff's audio was playing havoc with the old teeth chattering.
Yeah, but it's funny because when you watch the one from last year, again, I haven't watched this one yet. When you watch the one from last year, you can't tell. But when you're kind of sitting there, I was reading his energy, and at the same exact time that I'm like, okay, I'm way too cold, you could see he had the same thought at the same time of just like, okay, yep, I'm starting to freeze.
And he's gone blue.
Just totally frozen.
You know when to call it a day when Jeff Walker looks like a Smurf. We need to like.
But he did great. He did really, really well.
Nice.
Again, not
He's
surprising.
Such a great
guy. We've had him at a class before, but what I forgot, and he mentioned this on the mini pod, is he goes, I prepared a little bit more this time because what I didn't expect for first time coming into a Moto Academy class was to be given my own group and given the responsibility of my own group, which I forgot that was the case with him. And I don't always do that with everybody, right? But with Jeff, I gauged how he was doing in the morning when we had everybody in a circle and just talking during the riders meeting and after the free practice, where we do attack position talk and answer some questions. And he was just very articulate and also confident in his answers. When you don't have experience, it's really easy to get a question and then rush the answer on the question or kind of fumble your way through the answer because you don't have experience in answering it yet. Right?
Yeah.
Like you might have the information, but it's easy to get stumped by questions. And right away, Jeff was just like, firing on all syllables. And so I let him have his own group. But I do think that was intimidating for him, especially because I didn't give him a warning. And he made a good point on the podcast too, where he said that it was maybe in some sense easier for him at East Fork because he wasn't familiar I was going to say he wasn't as familiar with the track. He wasn't familiar with the track, period. And so he was able to he was breaking it down in his own head. So it was easier for him to explain to others. He said that this time, although he prepared more, he said he did struggle in the sense that Super Coupe, which was a track in Michigan, we just had track class yesterday with him. It's his home track. He lives 20 minutes from there. And so he's spun thousands of laps around that track, and he goes, it's basically at that point where when you ask somebody that's really good at something how they do it and they go, I don't know, I'll just do it. He goes, it's basically at that stage for me, so I had to really think from a different perspective on how to break down these sections. But he did great.
So did you feel did you see a difference in him having that level of confidence, knowing that he knew the place, right? Because obviously when we enter into new things, and certainly if we're thrown in the deep end, that can really, as you've just said, really stir up our anxiety and really stir up kind of almost negative reactions. And we end up coming away from it going, oh, I should have said that, or I should have done that. But did you see like a difference in him after the fact he knew the track so well?
Yeah, he was owning it. He was owning it for sure.
Cool.
And every time the students would come back over to my section after being with him, they were really enjoying it, because a different style too. I tend to, I don't want to say, I think I'm pretty aware to not over explain things. Like I do feel like I live right in that sweet spot of explaining it concisely, and
good word.
Not trying to just talk. But I still do talk way more than he did. Like, I was using him as a reference. I could see him on the other side of the track. I was trying to match my groups up with him. So when he would send his group, I was trying to send mine. And he was moving around a lot. So throughout the day, he probably worked 7 different sections. I worked 2, so I only moved one time. But I think that it's fun for the class to have that little change up, to do more of the racy type stuff with him. He was working rollers, he was working some jumps and piecing it together, where then they were coming to me and we were working, stand up only through an inside rut, like very, very, very stripped down fundamentals. So I think it just, it's all necessary, but it just adds another fun element to class. Yeah. He's great. He's great. So
that's
Jeff,
so cool.
You just have to.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And I'm bad at this too, but I have employees that do it for me. So Jeff, just hire an assistant. So if you're bad at responding to text messages, that's fine, because I am too. But just hire an assistant. That's the solution.
Yeah. Get someone to do it for you. So talking of classes, we got some pretty exciting ones coming up, right?
We do. Where are we going?
So what I'm going to do, because I messed up this last time, right? Because I forgot all of the states.
Okay, I'm going to make you guess the.
Bear with me, guys. I'm from England, so yeah, do it. So you call them out. I'm going to try and guess.
Well, I can't read them from here, so you're on your own.
Okay, so we've got Promised Land.
Yeah. MD, what's that?
Maryland.
Yep. So I'm going there this week, I think, and I've never been.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, that's the 17th. Sweet. What else have we got? We got Moto Pacific. I think that's Washington.
Shout out. That's a Coach Mitchell one, maybe?
Mitchell, I think, yeah. We got Jordan River, Utah. Shout out Randall. What a great place. Thunder Valley, Colorado.
Yep, that's a me class, end of October, maybe the 20-something.
And then we're in Germany, so I'm going to let you announce this one.
Yes.
Because I want to hear you say it.
Twitch and Thou. Yeah?
It's good. That's great. Nice. Love that. Yeah, so we're there with Simon Langenfelder. I can't even say it. He's just got an injury, unfortunately. He injured himself at Motocross of Nations, right? But he's still really keen, and he's still going to be at the class, and it's going to be amazing. What else we got? Wildwood.
Oh, Louisiana.
Oh, okay. There we go. See,
that's a confusing one. LA. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got Ty at the Sanctuary Compound, which is Colorado again.
Sweet.
I believe, yep. And then we've got STF facility in Georgia.
Yes.
Georgia. How am I doing?
Hey, better than I would if this were turned the other way around.
Okay, cool. So we've got Deer Creek, which we've got a camp at in 2026. That is in Arkansas. And then what have we got? We've got Skyline Idaho.
Sweet location too.
So
it's right next to Boise.
I've just gone and nailed it.
It's right next to Boise, which is a cool little town. Very convenient location. Yeah. Sweet track. Awesome track owner. And is Skyline?
Oh yeah, 100%.
We're not doing a 5-day camp there, are we?
Yes, we are.
We are.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, get yourselves on the website. Check out where our camps are in 2026. We're killing it. We're killing it.
Yeah, and that was a conversation Jeff and I had as well. Of, let's get you to some of the. If you think these single day classes are fun, we're going to be getting Jeff Walker to some of the 5-dayers as well. So, and I know we've talked about this, but we're just going to be bringing in guest instructors like crazy for those things. So, yeah, go check them out. We only have 2 more to get locked and loaded on the website, right?
I think so.
But there are 15 or 16 on.
I'm doing my best.
So go check them out.
Yeah, killing it. We're killing it. So yeah, I think that's it for classes coming up. We've got loads. Just check out the website.
themotoacademy.com. Go there. Also, get in the app. Get in the app. We're getting a lot of new subscribers, which is very cool. We did a live stream on Instagram the other day that got a bunch of subscribers, which seems obvious in hindsight. And the reason it's just hard to schedule all this stuff, I guess. It's easy in concept to be like, yeah, just toss a live stream on the schedule. Yeah. Just toss another one. Just do one a week. Just do 2 a week. And then you have to live it. And it's very inconvenient to schedule your day around having to, be home and at a certain time and do a live stream when you start to have these things back to back. But that made me realize
and if you're
how important it is to do,
if you're anything,
not just inside the app, but to social media as well. Right.
Yeah. That connection, right. It's important. Yeah. And I think if you're anything like me, if I'd have something like that scheduled in for the evening, it would write off my whole day.
Oh, why? Because you would just be thinking about it the whole day, or just
I think my anxiety would just be like, oh no, I've got that tonight. Like I'd want to do it, like I'd be up for it, but it would just write off my whole day.
I do agree with that in some sense. Yeah, because you want to do a good job of it. You also you definitely I agree, and but it's valuable. It's really valuable, especially when the majority of our content is so short form that.
Yeah.
I think everybody, if you ride a dirt bike, you know who I am. If you ride a dirt bike, you know what the Moto Academy is. I think we've accomplished that, right? But unless you're listening to the long form podcast or you're in the app and you really get the full taste of what we are, who I am, what we are, then you don't know fully, right? And I think that even a 20-minute live stream on Instagram, you can see quickly that I'm just real and helpful, and I just want to be there to help others.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
Jeff asked a good question last on that episode 158.5, where he said, what was the question, Ethan? He asked, how often do you think back on things that you've said or opinions that you have or have had and realize that you have a different opinion now, or that you realize that you were wrong? And it was a great question. It was also kind of a very relevant question to ask me of all people, because I'm very much one to just, I'm not off the cuff, but I'm not afraid to say anything. And I'm never saying things to offend people. But a good example I thought of after that podcast ended was when I said that I think a girl could win a 250 Supercross championship in the future, right? That's a very bold thing to say. And people thought I was crazy. Yeah. A lot of people made fun of me for saying that. That would be a great example of, do I reflect back on that right now and think that I was wrong? No, but I'm also, where was I going with this? No idea. I'm also very open-minded to the fact that I could be convinced otherwise. I think the live streams can give you a sense of more of who I am as that person, right? Like somebody commented through and they kept writing, "You're gay," and and then they wrote, "You're gay."
Wow,
you're gay. Like they kept commenting it. Through.
How well they know you.
And you're right. And I responded back really nicely, gave him a shout out, like not in a sarcastic way. And I think it's even little stuff like that. Like you just see what type of people we are at the Moto Academy. Right.
Yeah, but I think it ties in nicely to that kind of that whole character thing that we play. You know, I know me and you talked the other day about that Jim Carrey thing, right, where he talks about the version that we are, or the person that we are, is a character we're playing, right? So that is our name, our job, and our kind of almost our reputation, and everything is all tied up in this character we're playing. And I think often we kind of step into that character in certain scenarios. Like, for example, when you're on a live stream, you're a certain character. When somebody's watching you on a live stream and they're hidden behind a keyboard, they're a certain character, right? So, and I know that's that character thing of Jim Carrey, you brought it to me. So I was wondering if you wanted to quickly talk about that, because I've been kind of trying to unpack that the last few days.
That was actually part of my answer to Jeff when he asked that question, was that I think the key, the difference was, if you rewind 4 years ago, I wouldn't consider myself arrogant, but I was egotistical in that I identified with my ego, right? I relied on external circumstance to validate whether I was good or bad in a certain situation or deserving of a certain thing or not. So I was completely dependent, and I was a comment or somebody saying something to me would affect me because that I would place value in that, right? Because I was the character. There was no separation. I was the character. When you live like that, which many, many, many people do, most people do, you tend to be defensive over things that you say because that is part of your identity, right? So you'll kind of argue something to death, even if you're not totally sure you believe it or not. You'll just kind of keep going and keep defending it. And that's what I said. Now it's very much the opposite of that for me, where I will make a decision to say something. I don't just float in the middle, right? Because that's not productive. I'll steer a direction and head a direction and say something and commit to it. But if you approach me a week later or a day later and wanted to have a conversation about it, or in that moment and wanted to have a conversation about it, I'm not attached to anything that I say because it doesn't define me. I'm not attached to any action that I do because that doesn't define who I am. I'm already different. By the time we're reflecting on that conversation, I'm already a different person. So I'll play a character, but I am not the character. And I heard a Jim Carrey quote today. I wonder if it was from the same conversation where he said, I used to feel like I was a person, a human experiencing the world. And now I feel like I'm the world experiencing a human. I used to feel like I was a person experiencing the world. Now I feel like I'm the world experiencing a person. Does that resonate with you at all? Can you make sense of that when I say that?
Yeah, I think that whole concept, I know me and you have had lots of conversations about ego and kind of the characters we play and along this similar lines. And I'll be honest with you, it's a lot for me to unpack. And I think, although I'm starting to kind of recognize the patterns in my life where I see that I'm playing a character, what I kind of struggle with is if everything we do is kind of framed in this ego or this character we're playing, then what is the real me? What is the real you? And I think for me, that's where I come up short on that concept, because somewhere along the lines, this has got to reduce, right? It's got to reduce down to the fact that, yes, I play all these characters. Yes, I play tour manager Al. Yes, I play a father, a husband, all those things. But what is the real me? And there has to be a real me, right? Would you agree with that?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, I think the real you, the real me is God, or not God, but God-like, in that we are nothing but also everything all at the same time. And nobody knows the answer to that question. It's one of the core questions of like, why are we here? What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Yeah, the mystery.
But
the mystery to life.
No, no. I don't think you have to even worry yourself so much about that answer, other than your mission while you're here is, as far as we know, the mission while you're here is to just evolve and to progress and to just get better and to help others around you to do the same. So with that, you're constantly changing and shedding old versions of your identity, but none of it is actually who you are at the core. Who you are at the core, nobody even knows. It's nothing. I mean, our bodies are made up of 99.99999% nothing. Not water, nothing. And the world is made up of 99.99999% of nothing. So that's why when you have moments of, and I know this is obviously difficult when you're in it, but when you have moments of feeling a certain type of way, that's why I'm always like, man, just get out of your own way. Just get out of the way. Like, who are you to think that you are a victim of this circumstance, or who are you to put a definition on a certain thing? It's just, you're none of it. You're none of it. Good or bad, you're not any of it.
I think A big fear of mine, I guess, would be if we could reduce ourselves down to a single identity, our true self, quote unquote, then my fear would be that my depression and my battle with mental health would be the real me. And I guess all the characters that I'm playing throughout my 40 years on the planet have all been kind of in the way of that, if that makes sense, and almost masking it. And suddenly when life takes a turn, that all that's stripped away and all you're left with is just this one kind of core version of you, and that core version is depressed, it's has anxiety, it's got a mental health battle. That for me is my biggest fear, that actually we do have a true self, and that my true self is that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you're still thinking in the earthly realm of like matter or dualistic, good, bad, hot, cold, good and evil. It is impossible for you to be. People are depressed because that is a negative energy. Negative energy has to exist for positive energy to exist. So for like us to be here and be people walking around, there has to be that dualism. There has to be an opposite, or else a thing doesn't exist. That doesn't exist in what we can perceive as human beings walking around, right? But if you zoom out even further than that, or I guess zoom in further, however you want to describe it, it is impossible for you to get to your core root of yourself and it be depressed. That would just mean it's not it. I believe in good and evil. I believe in like the devil or whatever. It's just like it's just physical manifestations or spiritual manifestations, but that's not even the root of it. Those are just things that make things happen that we can see. I wish I was smart enough to be able to explain what I understand to be true in my head, but I'm not quite there yet. It's frustrating.
It's tricky, right? When you kind of, you have a mixing pot of ingredients of knowledge, for example, and these things where we can obtain all these kind of, not necessarily sound bites or snack bites of information, but when you're like you are currently in the situation where you're obtaining knowledge, you're obtaining all this kind of wisdom and knowledge, but it's very difficult as well sometimes to be able to articulate that. And that's what I find when you have for want of a better word, a personal revelation of something. It's really difficult to then articulate that in a way that's going to resonate with someone else, right? And I think from our conversations, on face value, talking to you about this stuff makes me realize, I'll be real with you, how unintelligent I am, because the lack of knowledge is apparent when it comes to stuff like this, because I've literally never taken myself this deep in an understanding, right? And that's obviously a fault on my part. But do you think that obtaining knowledge is the only route past something like depression or a mental health battle?
Yeah. To a permanent way beyond it, I would say yes, because when you begin to assimilate the information, make it who you are, and become that information that you're learning. It started for me with the basics of, well, like Think and Grow Rich was the first book, right? So that had a lot of spiritual things and concepts that it talked about. Then it kind of dove into growth mindset. So ways of thinking, perception, where your awareness is placed. Then it kind of steered towards maybe a little bit of neuroscience, even, because I wanted to understand, okay, how are some of these things happening actually? Then it kind of steered deeper. I would say the deepest level of understanding would be consciousness and studying what consciousness is, because I've come to now believe that, and I think that this is about as far as modern science, and this is pretty new, is that consciousness would be fundamental in that and I've said this before, and I'm sure that people have no idea what I say when I say that, but people believe that your brain or the matter is producing an experience. Your brain is producing the thoughts that come from it, and the consciousness, like what you're aware of here, that you're listening and hearing my words, all that's coming from your brain. That's not true. It's the opposite. Consciousness, this awareness, this thing that we can't even really put our finger on, we don't really understand at all what it is actually what created your brain. It's what created everything that we see here in real life. And so I when you learn and learn and learn and learn in the way that I have, which is trying to learn not some niche of pigeonholing yourself into understanding one little part of one little philosophy. I'm trying to understand the whole thing as best I can.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it all points to the same exact thing. Christianity, Buddhism, quantum physics, every bit of it is saying this. It's saying the same exact thing. So yes, I do think that to have proper faith, like you see people going to church, obviously, right? The majority, 99% of those people don't understand. They're not there yet. They're trying, which is great.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Yep.
Yeah, it's. I mean, for me, it's one of those things where, this is my personal experience. You can obtain as much knowledge as you can, but for me, my kind of view or my experience of depression or mental illness, for example, that's my personal experience. My experience of that is I could create a hypothetical where you've got an athlete, and an athlete is supremely fit. They've done everything they can to train for an event. They're the fittest they could be. They're the strongest they could be, but they then trip and break their leg, right? That then has to be a process of, it's almost out of their control. Now what they've got to do is they've got to heal from that injury. So they're they're not suddenly unfit. They're not suddenly weak. They're just injured, and they've got to work through that moment, right? Because I can liken that to this as well. I could obtain all the knowledge in the world, but yet a day will still come where I'll just drop off the edge, and I find myself thinking, well, why am I here? But then I have to realize that it's a case of recovering from that. And I guess from my experience my mental illness I feel is out of my control, and it's something like an injury to an athlete. You don't expect it, you don't want it, but it comes and plays a massive part in your life. And obviously that the desires in that athlete hasn't changed. They still want to perform, they still want to go to that event, they still want to be the best. But at the moment they've got to process through this injury. So that would be kind of like how I envisage my battle with mental illness. I don't know if that resonates or makes any sense.
I think the biggest hole in that, though, is that when you identify with saying that it's out of your control, that's where I guess I would disagree, right? The reason it feels out of your control is because it is such a practiced behavior that it's subconscious. So what you're consciously aware of in that moment, it feels like you're fighting against something else. That something else is just the practiced behavior of your subconscious, which is way more powerful than your conscious awareness of you recognizing, crap, I'm feeling this wave of negativity hitting me today. Right? That imagination, so that subconscious is way more powerful than you trying to fight against that with your willpower of, I just want to feel good. I just want to feel good. But it still is just practiced behavior. That's it.
So would you still apply that same narrative to, if we use that analogy of the injury, right? If I looked at my mental health like something that, I could be, quote unquote, the fittest athlete out there, but then I trip and break my ankle. Can you still apply that same thing to kind of that out of your control narrative?
Well, that's taking a step more into the physical world, which is, I guess, relevant because we are alive, but less relevant in the sense that none of that that's less far away from what's actually real. Our physical bodies and this physical experience is less, it's further away from the reality of what's real. Your inner world is far more real than what you're experiencing in the outer world. So I'd say a broken bone is way less of a problem. And it is technically something if you had the correct, and this sounds way out there, but like Autobiography of a Yogi, I mean, in that book, they're bringing people back from the dead. They're doing they're levitating, you name it. Because when you get to a certain level, you could probably fix your broken leg like that. But none of this is going to make any sense to anybody, but that's okay.
So talking of big characters then, and playing certain characters, I think Ethan has a pretty cool clip that we could potentially have a look at and have some thoughts of it. In fact, I think AJ, you put it in the group, right? That we could have a look at.
The Deegan clip?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's watch that clip because, on the topic of zooming out and thinking a little bit bigger, this is a good example of that. So let's listen.
Okay, I want to go make 50 million a season, but these guys also need to be able to have a season where they can retire off of. It's like any other sport. You watch NFL, NBA, all these players are making bread. All of them are making money, no matter if they're the best. It's, growing this sport, and Jake has done that really well, where now these fighters are wanting to fight him just because they're getting a $50 million payout. And I feel like that's the goal, is just bringing more eyes and attention to this sport. And we have the diehard fans, but now we need more. We need more fans from the outside, whether you like me or not. That doesn't bother me, because I'm trying to grow the sport, make money, and make money for the other riders too. Some of these guys are barely surviving. It's wild to me that this is kind of where our sport's at right now. It needs to take a massive spike, and that's where it's at. My mental state is dirt bikes really is gnarly on the mind. I mean, that's like the reason why I feel like I've excelled so well so quickly. It hasn't taken me a while to, get my feet wet in this sport. I feel like I was able to excel really quick just because of my mental side. Like every time I go to that starting line, I tell myself I'm going to win. Every time, I get to the track, every time I set for qualifying, I tell myself I'm going to win or be the fastest. It's this mental state of no one can beat you. As cocky as it sounds, that's the mental state I'm in. And whether I win or lose.
Pretty cool. So
interesting.
I love the first part of that where he talks about growing the sport. Thinking bigger than himself. That's a purpose of thinking bigger than yourself, which is why he's also unembarrassable in a sense, and not unapologetic. He's unapologetic when it comes to riding and doing things the way that he does it. Right? He just he's doing it for a bigger purpose than even to just win that race. The overall purpose for him is to elevate all of it, which is cool because nobody is doing that. Nobody's doing that. And unfortunately, even the Lawrences, the way that they're operating right now, they're just going out to win races for themselves, and it kind of, the ball stops there a little bit. Right?
It almost has to be a selfish sport, doesn't it? Because it's a sport that's completely caked in self-development. It's caked in self-performance, self-belief. So it is a very selfish sport. So when you can kind of take yourself out of that, like he just has, and look at it from like we talked about the other day, about looking with a bigger lens, right? And zooming out. That's what he's doing there. He's zooming out for the kind of bigger picture and the growth of the sport as a whole entity, which is great.
100%. And yes, there's still very much the I am the best within that, right? Which is fine though, because when you do start to think bigger picture like that and understand kind of how things work, and move from survival mode more into creative mode, then you understand the power that you have. So of course you believe in yourself. You believe in everybody. You believe in yourself. I just wish there were more people in the sport, and I get it. It's tough because the sport will knock you down so easy. And make you feel like you need to go into survival mode and fend for yourself. Absolutely. But we need more people that are truly trying to grow it. And there's ways that he could take it to the next level too, because it's easy to say that. And it's also, easy in a sense to bring in new fans by having the Conor McGregor-esque attitude. But then what? You know? Then what is you rely on the Moto
tricky,
Academy to teach people how to ride the bikes and to give them a community to actually stay in the sport. Right? Yeah, and that every conversation we have, Al, and anytime we talk about ego, the problem is always only that people don't zoom out and think big enough. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's probably where I've got confused about ego too. And I think talking about what Deegan's just said there about his mindset, I think people often conflate the two, because I think what he's talking about there is obvious. What he's talking about is mental strength. And then I would always kind of bring it back to the narrative of mental illness and the fact I believe people collate those two things. They conflate those two things. Because for me, like, mental strength is like a resilience with awareness, right? It's control. It's kind of control, and it's not suppression. So you actively choose to be mentally strong. Whereas mental illness is kind of, it isn't a lack of willpower. It's a psychological malfunction, right? That needs support and often treatment. So I do understand and fully agree with what he's saying there about the whole mental strength thing.
But those are on the same plane. And there's
been times often where
those are on the same plane of,
right.
Those are opposites.
Right.
I don't think that I don't have mental strength. I have faith. Faith doesn't have an opposite.
Interesting.
Yeah, faith doesn't have an opposite. So and I believe that he kind of has that faith as well. And he's just using the wrong words there. A mental strength, confidence, has an opposite, which is fear, anxiety, depression. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. And those are all ego identities. Those are...
What if you're like...
Go ahead.
Sorry. What if you're like someone like me who kind of lives in both of those?
Yeah. It's just because you're living within the ego. So everything that you would experience has to either be labeled as good or bad. Mental strength or anxiety. I like this thing. I don't like this thing. Which, yes, we do need some of that, because without it, we wouldn't have a real life. We wouldn't have an experience here on earth. But yeah, when you like dive into what the Bible is really telling us, and God created the world so that he could have an experience of what it is like to exist. He could have an awareness of what it is like to experience the world. And that the only way you can experience something is by there being a good and a bad. That's what yin and yang is, I'm pretty sure. It's there has to be an opposite for a thing to exist. But there is what God is, and what being godlike is the faith of which it doesn't have an opposite. It's the same thing with like unconditional love. Doesn't have an opposite. When you are lusting for somebody, or when you are in the early stages of a relationship, when you think you love somebody, how does that usually manifest itself? A lot of times it manifests itself in volatile arguments, right? And an emotional roller coaster of up and down, right? And it's not until deeper into a relationship, when you spend 5, 10, 20 years with somebody, hopefully, and you've grown together, where it then becomes unconditional love, where you are one, and there is not an opposite to that. Again, I'm not making sense to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have thousands of people listening to this, maybe one person is understanding, but hey,
that's okay.
Got to start somewhere.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I think like me and you are on a similar journey there. It sounds like you're steering towards a more of a spiritual kind of journey. I don't really like the word journey, but a spiritual process. And I would be one that's coming away from that, because I've experienced all that stuff, right? And to the idea of to have faith in a God and all that kind of stuff is something I have experienced in my past, and it's not something I live now. So it's not my lived reality anymore. And I found that myself having to kind of any rebuilding or any kind of structure that I have in my life, I have to earn it, and I have to create it, and I have to make it, right? And it is almost like, not to sound harsh, but there's no one out looking for you. There's no one out looking over you. There's no one there to help you. You've got to do it yourself, and that's where that inner strength comes from. Does that make sense?
What was can you give the Spark Notes version of what you were saying your kind of relationship with the spiritual stuff was?
Yeah, so I grew up in religion, basically. And that for me was a huge part of my identity. So I was completely bound up in everything about it. My family and myself lived it daily. And I was then hit with the reality where none of what I believed or the narrative I believed turned out to be the truth I thought it was. So that's it in a nutshell.
Do you remember what the truth you thought it was?
Yeah, I believe that there was a God who created me and created us, and I believed that I couldn't even breathe without him. And for me, when that is stripped away, is hugely traumatic. And yes, you could argue that the kind of narrative I believed was a religious one, and it was created by people, so it wasn't really a lived thing, but I'd had enough experiences spiritually to think that what I believed was wholeheartedly the truth. And when that was stripped away and I realized that the reality I was living in, it wasn't that was hugely traumatizing for me. But it was also liberating, because I realized that actually everything I now need to do moving forward is on me. And it takes my inner strength, and it takes me to push past this stuff. There's no savior, right? That narrative doesn't exist.
Salvation.
And although it's been an incredibly strong force for good in my life in the past, it's also done a lot of damage, that kind of whole belief system. So I am no longer a believer, but I do believe in the power of us and the fact that we can conquer our struggles ourselves.
Yeah, start getting back towards that direction in a different way. The way that what religion has done, and it's done a crazy disservice, is that it's created separation between what you are and what God is. You know, a lot of people, even religious people, are looking at God and thinking that it's like a person that is controlling all of these things, and I don't think that that's even a helpful visual or conceptual way to think about that. And it creates a lot of separation of I've sinned, or you know, I don't think so much of that is not helpful. You are there is no separation between you and the highest power, because you are we're all the same thing. We're all nothing, which that nothing is God, which I'm making no sense, but all of us are nothing, for gosh sakes. Yeah,
to kind of jump to kind of piggyback off the back of what you're saying there, I've come to the conclusion that God is awareness, right?
Yeah, great.
And I believe that the whole idea of Jesus, for example, he was just a guy who obtained awareness, and he would spread the good news of the fact that, hey guys, we don't have to live like this. We don't have to make these choices. There is a better way to live. There's a better way to think. And it's awareness, right? So what then man did was he then took that idea and made it into this kind of whole Godhead thing, where it looks like it had an identity and God was this big bearded guy in the sky. But I believe that God is awareness. So I no longer call it God. I call it awareness. And that kind of level of pursuit now for me goes towards, let's get awareness. Let's be better people. Let's think differently. Let's love more. Let's do things that are good for humanity, not bad for humanity.
Yeah, that's a great way to think of it, I think, is of awareness. So, but that's interesting that you think that, but then yet you feel like you don't have control. Right?
Yeah, so if you wanted to liken it back to God and the devil, I see depression as the devil, right? I see depression as that voice on your shoulder that constantly picks away at you. So if you wanted to kind of frame it that way, I don't personally, but we could frame it that way for the hypothetical here. If God is awareness, depression and mental illness is the devil. So it's kind of a battle. So it almost is, in my pursuit of awareness, I still have to face the devil, right? I still have to face those days where the devil might win. He might talk louder than I do. He might shout louder than I do. So if I could frame it that way, maybe that might kind of give it a bit more of a better feel for you to kind of grasp. I don't know.
That's interesting. I do believe, though, that if you want to God isn't awareness. God is all of awareness would be that package before it is God. Awareness is still, Jesus was awareness because he was here. So that had to have an opposite, which would be the devil, right? I don't know. I haven't read the Bible, but I've done enough of studying of all of this stuff where I do feel like I have a little bit of an understanding. That has an opposite.
Yeah.
But there's a whole nother plane that has no opposite. It's perfect exactly the way that it is. And that's your true state. When you die, that's what you will go back, right? Well, actually that's good. What do you believe happens when you die?
I used to believe we went to this magical place called heaven, but I don't believe that is necessarily true anymore. I believe that there's maybe a reality where we exist in a state somewhere. I don't know, but obviously I don't have the answer to those things. And I think one of those things I struggled with religion was the arrogance of people knowing that what they say is the truth, right? And when it comes to the whole heaven and hell thing, Christianity would say this is fact, but I no longer see it that way. But I don't know, so I'm not claiming that I know what the truth is. Does that make sense? So there's no arrogance in my belief, in a sense. I don't claim to know. So,
but you think, what do you think happens? Or you're not even, is it hard for you to even explain what you think happens?
I think it's hard for me to even explain. I think we probably exist on some level somewhere. I don't believe that this is just it, but maybe it is. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard one.
And would you answer it the same way for what do you think happened before you were born?
Yeah, I think so. Even with perhaps even more mystery, because I knew less then.
Yeah, and I don't know those answers either. But I guess that my belief system would tell me that the before and after, the before I was born and after I die is your home. That's your natural state. That's when you're back connected with all that is, and that is God.
Yeah. So,
which is
talking of God. Then there are a few people that think riders like Eli Tomac are God. Right now, I know in our notes in front of this, I think Ethan had a question about Tomac. So I don't know if we wanted to quickly jump over to podcast questions and open that up. What do you think?
Sweet. So we do have a question from Patrick Coda. He said, "What is it about Tomac's riding that is hard to emulate? I'm pretty new to riding and have heard AJ say that before. I'm trying to watch and see what he does different, and I'm not really noticing anything."
Interesting. So great question, Patrick. By the way, these podcast questions are from people Patrick. Inside of the app. Go to themotoacademy.com, subscribe, get in the app, communicate with the community. It's getting better by the day. Read the question.
Yeah, so he said, "What is it about Tomac's riding that is hard to emulate? I'm pretty new to riding and I've heard AJ say that before. I'm trying to watch and see what he does different, but I'm not really noticing anything."
Okay, that's a fair question because I do think that there are some subtleties that are things that I wouldn't teach others to do. I think that Tomac is a little bit more of the old school mentality of charge crazy hard into a corner, brake as hard as you can. I think that even when I say that, most people are like, "Oh, well, yeah, duh. Isn't that what everybody should be striving for?" No, I actually think that that's one of the main things that people should stray away from and try not to do. We should be trying to get off the brakes a little bit earlier, trying to float through the last part of that straightaway into the corner entry and carry momentum, carry that roll speed. That is an easier thing to do. It's an easier way to ride. That's how Jett rides.
Safer.
Yeah, safer, more consistent, more fun. Way more fun. I mean, charging hard into a corner and just getting on the binders as you're going through the roughest part of the track isn't a fun way to ride. It's exhausting. It'll give you arm pump. It doesn't really flow as well. And Tomac is able to ride in that way and make it look really quite good and also make it work. But I don't think it's an easy way to emulate. And I don't think it's an easy way to teach others how to ride. I said this yesterday at class. I do believe that the technique will come, it will be cyclical in the sense that the reason Jett's technique works so perfectly right now is because we've had a generation or two of riders charging as hard as they can in, braking as hard as they can at the end. So we've gotten to the point where these tracks develop the same way, where it's all rough kind of in one spot. Jett has figured out the secret of going back to Stefan Everts used to ride this way quite a bit. Of not really ever braking that hard at all, just kind of like floating your way through it, right? But if everybody did start to ride that way, which might happen, then it will be effective again to charge in as hard as you can and brake as hard as you can again, because the tracks won't be rough in the same spots. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so I look at it in that way, and that's a big picture way to think of it. But that would be one thing that majorly stands out for Tomac. Another thing that stands out for Tomac is he sits earlier than Jett, I would say, relatively speaking. Again, a thing that's a little bit more complex to do. Tomac steers with the rear way more than Jett does. Steering with the rear is an amazing thing to learn, but very difficult to do. Tomac also revs the bike a lot, but I'll be curious to see how that changes when he goes to the KTM. I don't think that he'll do it as much on the KTM. I just think there's something nice about the Yamaha, and it's just nice to listen to. And so it'll make everybody be a bit more of a rever.
Yeah, I agree.
I also think that Tomac uses the clutch a lot more than the normal person would have to. But I don't know. Anything stand out to you, Al?
Yeah, I think just really to kind of, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think Tomac is the epitome of the guy that's passing the baton, right? So he's the guy that's going from the old school to the new school. And I think he's taken a lot of what the Jetts and the Hunters are doing, and he's applying that stuff, but he's also living out that kind of more old school riding style. So I think he's the guy that's passing the baton. He's right on that kind of pinnacle where he's going from old school to new school. Does that make sense? And I think he makes it work. He does make it work.
Oh, wow. Watching clips of him
charging
from
hard.
Motocross of Nations.
Unbelievable.
Sweet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy cool to watch.
Yeah,
just
so good.
a legendary
So
dude.
good.
But yeah, I mean, if you were to put him side by side with Jett and say which one should you try and ride like, I think even Eli would say, yeah, try to ride like Jett.
Yeah, for sure.
I would think,
yeah,
right?
100%.
It's easier.
100%.
It's easier. That's it.
Yeah,
it's easier.
Yeah, and I think Eli's the type of guy that would probably pick holes in his own riding.
Yeah, yeah, he's a legend. He's smart. He has adapted and adopted a lot of newer things. He's riding with the feet on a lot. He's certainly not closed-minded to the new wave, but Jett was just, he's way younger, so it's easier for him to come in, and he's had more experience learning in the newer kind of way from a younger age. He also learned from a lot of the right people, clearly, because a lot of the things that Jett is now doing are what most people in the sport even still would argue are wrong, and certainly 5 years ago would have argued are wrong. Right? If you would have gone to any training facility, and most trainers in the US and said, or in the world for that matter, and said, we should all be getting off the brakes earlier and not trying to charge deep into corners, they would be like, oh, you're crazy.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
And I think the thing for Eli as well, what I would struggle with if I was Eli, is the expectation on him. And I think people expect him to be able to win constantly. And I think from a position of kind of being an outsider looking in, his riding style should look like it should be winning. And that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, well, especially when you see those clips, you think, how could anybody? How is it possible to go faster than that? Yeah. But that is also again a testament to how well riding with flow and momentum and roll speed can work. But great question.
Sure.
Good question. Any other podcast questions?
I got 3 from social media that I think would be pretty good for us, and then we're getting close to our mark here. So first up, we have a question from Easton Mewborn 301. He said, what is the most important technique in motocross?
What is the most important? Well, your TMA position, your basic attack position. And it's also, and that sounds obvious, people are rolling their eyes. Of course he said that. But the fact of the matter is, I travel the world doing these classes. When you go to these classes, let's say there's 40 people there. And these are 40 people, by the way, that are aware enough of the Moto Academy, that probably watched a bunch of the videos, that are maybe even so far much to say are in the app, and they aren't doing it. Right? Usually there's only about, I'd say 3 to 6 people at each class that really have got it pretty darn solid. Right? Would you agree, Al? And they I would stick out like sore thumbs. It's great that there are those that exist, but the large majority is even fast people. Even if you go to a local race, or even if you went to Loretta's and watched the A class, there's probably only a few that would stand out as, oh, this guy's fundamentally, he's got it all correct. People like to skip steps. And I think that in motocross, like anything, you can get good and skip steps. You could get good and be missing some pieces of the foundation. But yeah, I would urge everybody at any skill level to take all the time that they need to refine, and this process never ends, by the way, to just keep refining the basic fundamentals of your attack position standing up and your fundamental sitting position with both feet on and sitting upright with that posture. Once you do that, everything else falls into place. The jumps will happen without you even really having to try to do them or not, because you'll just have confidence in your standing position, right? And you'll be able to hit and connect the dots of going through ruts and berms and sand corners and whatever type of corner you have to hit. And your riding experience will just go through the roof, because you can ride the track with consistency and flow. Yep. All sounds very obvious, but most people are stuck. Most people get stuck somewhere along the way. They get hung up on a fear, or they get hung up on trying to compare themselves to others. So they're kind of riding that wave of, I just got to get fast really quick. And then they get hurt a lot. And yeah, there was even a girl at class yesterday, Ellie. Shout out Ellie. It was her 15th birthday. She'll be in our newest vlog coming out. She was great. She went to Loretta's this year in women's class and girls class. And she was going very, very fast, but she was in what I call torpedo mode, where she was pushing the bike out in front of her and almost going into an aerodynamic tuck behind it. And the major problem with that is now you're connected to all the movements of that bike. There is a time and place where, like, if you're going down a start straight on a hole shot and you see pictures of Deegan or Jett or these guys hanging off the back of the bike in some situations, that's fine. But that's not a technique that you should adopt to the rest of the track, because you're just going to be connected with the rear end of that motorcycle. So think about that. I mean, she's 15. She's been riding probably all her life. She rides at a high level. And yet she didn't have the hip thing figured out to be able to hip hinge forward and drive that chest and head forward. Once I explained it to her, she understood it quite quickly, and she applied it. Ethan could attest to this. She applied it immediately. It was like somebody pressed a button and her problem was solved. I couldn't believe how quickly she fixed it, actually. And if she sticks to that, oh man, everything is going to, I told her she's going to go from what I think she was mid-pack, 20 to 25th or 30th place at Loretta's this year, to top 10 rider at Loretta's like that. The speed will be a byproduct of fixing that one fundamental.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, right after you had given her that advice, she came into the corner a bit fast and almost tucked the front, but you could immediately see her get right back to position and continue it, right? So like, yes, there was a hiccup at the beginning of the corner, that first pass, but then immediately like just back to proper position.
Yeah, it's saved. Well, that should have been a crash probably. I bet you that would have been a crash where she was before. But she was able to kind of, it just kind of wiggled underneath her hips, let the bike wash out quickly, and then she just, stayed in position. It was cool to see. And you guys will be able to check out that vlog soon. So you'll see the stark contrast with the before and after. Couple more Insta questions.
Yeah, we got 2 more. So next up, we have a question from you_know who. I can't say that I know who, but we'll run with it. They asked, what is the best off the bike exercise to improve on bike fitness?
Boring.
Oh,
hit me with another one.
Hit you with another one. All right. All right. This is actually a good one. What's the biggest?
I feel like I've answered that question in the last 10 podcasts. Sorry.
You might have. I just, you know how I am. I'm looking for the clippable moments. So another good question we got from Natu_re. He said, biggest piece of advice you would hand over to the youth of motocross.
That's a good one. I'm kind of in a mood today, to be honest, where
Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
No, it's a good.
I don't need the robot emoji, do I?
What? No.
I don't need the robot emoji.
Well, maybe. I'm in a mood. No, I'm in a good mood actually. But
good.
I'm having a sensation throughout the day and in this podcast that I'm unrelatable. Al, you want to answer this question?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's, for me personally, it would be slow down. I think that is the biggest piece of advice I'd hand to someone who's a youth rider who's coming up through. Slow down. And I think not only on the bike, but I think in life as well and in the whole process. I think when we slow down on the track, we're able to kind of learn a better foundation. And I think when you've got a solid foundation, you can build a strong house. And I think too many kids just try and go too quick. And they try and do things too fast. So for me, it would be get yourselves in the app, learn the Moto Academy attack position, and slow the heck down. Slow down and apply yourself to the techniques and have your speed come from good foundation.
I was having a good old-fashioned conversation with ChatGPT in the hot tub the other night. And
heavy.
And we were having a conversation about slowing down, matter of fact. And I said, hey, I really would love to package have the mission statement of 2026 Moto Academy be slow down. And I know it already kind of is, right? But I was having a conversation with ChatGPT to just even take it to another level. Because I think that it can explain and can help you get to a state of mind that, you can start to be a little bit more aware or less worried about yourself, maybe. What slowing down will do on the dirt bike is it will give you time to be aware of the things that you're doing, good or bad, things that you're doing correctly, mistakes that you're making. And it will give you room to be able to begin chipping away and working at those things. When you're rushing through life, when you're rushing through a day at the track, or rushing through a moto, you are technically in survival mode, which means you are you're doing things subconsciously and it's just automated programs. You're not accessing those programs at all. You're just living them out and assuming that that's who you are, that you're just riding that way because it's how you've always done it. When you slow down, it takes you out of that. Right.
Right.
So when you start going from riding at 90 or 100% and riding instead at 30 or 40%, you're going to be out there on the track and be looking around. You're going to see the track in a different way. You're going to be having thoughts that you haven't had on the bike before. It's all going to feel different because it's new. And that's huge. And I don't know if this would make sense explaining that to a young kid or not, but that is something that I wish somebody could have. My dad definitely subconsciously drilled. My dad would always say slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? So he's getting a lot of things in there. But I think the comparison to others for me was always the big one that made me rush without realizing I was rushing. The comparison to others was always it was always right there in my face. It was always the biggest thing I worried about, that it
like you just said, you don't think a kid would relate to slowing down. Perhaps they wouldn't, but I think they would relate to the lack of pressure, right? Because I think so many kind of dads, mums, whoever out there kind of teaching their kids how to ride or whatever, it's all about speed, right? You got to go as quick as you can. You got to go fast. We've got to get the results. So I think although they might not understand the concept of going slow, well, they would, but you know what I mean? It's different. It's difficult in a sport that's you're meant to go fast in. But I think they would relate more to the lack of pressure and the fact that then they can start building that foundation again from being slower.
We had a moment yesterday actually where I think Ellie did a really great job, but we also had a little 65 rider. Ethan, do you know what his first name was by chance?
I can't. Carson, maybe? It kind of sounds like it's ringing a bell. I can't remember. I know his number is 45.
He was on a Cobra, number 45. He did Loretta's this year as well. I think it was his first year in the 65 class at Loretta's, and he got 7th, which is a big deal. So that means he's quite fast. Obviously, Al, if had you had seen him, it was like he probably was the fastest 65 rider I've seen in some time. The last couple of years, that class, definitely. I haven't seen a 65 kid that quick in a while. But at the same time, he was very open-minded to listening and going slow. He did a fantastic job. Great. And you could tell he had some realizations yesterday that he hadn't had before, because now, I think this is where people maybe get the misconception here is they assume that going slow is only done for like, or are you saying that I'm being unsafe? Are you just telling me to go slower because I need to be more safe? Sure, that is a byproduct as well. It will be more safe, likely. But the biggest thing about slowing down is what I just said, is that it changes your perspective and it changes the way you look at things. So he had struggled to scrub clutch side down, and he had never really thought about why, but he was able to tell me that anytime he tried to scrub to the left, let's call it, the bike would get stuck out sideways and he would always land sideways. And so we spent a bunch of time doing a drill and getting him to stop doing the jump, practicing the scrub, and instead just practice it by rolling the jump. And we found the source of the problem pretty quickly, actually. And the source of the problem was that he was doing the movement to slow up the jump face, and so the bike was getting hung out. And we started to just work on quicker snaps, which looks less flamboyant. Is that a good adjective for that? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, great adjective.
But it snaps it back quicker, so it's more safe. And it solves his problem of the bike getting stuck out sideways.
Yeah. I hope that answers that question. I mean, we're at an hour and 15 now. Where are you at with timing wise? Do you want to call it a day, or do you?
I had one more question.
Did you have any other notes, Ethan?
For Al's uploading purposes, I'd say we probably cut it short before we go another 30, and then we're waiting a year for the upload.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I mean, it could happen. I've got a good process now.
All right, sweet. All right, so this last question is from Jace Matson. He says, how do you make the most of an off day while at the track?
Shout out Jace Matson.
Yeah. How do you make the most of
the
it?
Track?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Like having a bad day at the track. Well, the first thing I want to say is slow down, but we can't say that again.
Okay, I've got something. I would say pick just 2 things. Yeah, get a book. Pick 2 things to work on, and that's it.
Okay. I've got an answer too.
That's it.
Pick 1 thing to work on.
Okay. You just outdid me. Just absolutely hung me out to dry. But why not, right? Just pick 1 thing, 2 things, and make those your focus. And
but
if they're things
here comes
that
my
are
mood
really
again.
doable,
My mood's coming back, Al. You want to know why?
Go on. Oh, wow.
So I think my mood's coming back because I'm having a moment of...
Oh, the tightest pants.
I think that, they did. And I'm putting on weight. I'm 161.
They come in medium,
I put on
right?
7 pounds since last week, actually. Pretty big stuff happening over here.
What's that in kilos?
I'm not sure. I'm probably creeping up on maybe like 68 to 70 kilos if I had to guess.
Wow. Dude, I'm like 94 kilos.
I could be wrong when I say that. Yeah, Ethan, are you looking at that?
Yeah, 161 is 73.028 kilograms.
Oh, that was close.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I weigh a lot more than you.
My mood today, Al, is that I'm feeling maybe that discouraged. Maybe that's a bad way to say it. That it's really hard for people to listen to you say something like that and then apply it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think
frame it. Can you frame that a different way for me a little bit?
I think that it's too easy for people to listen to somebody answer a question that seems like a big problem to them. And then the answer that you give them is so simple in concept that they then just write it off as, no, I've already tried that. That can't work. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling that way a little bit today, and that all the answers that I'm giving or we're giving, I think, although yes, really good advice, I'm afraid that a lot of people listen to it and don't do it.
Well, for me, to answer that, it was a no-brainer. Get yourself to a class. Get yourself to a camp. Because ultimately, these questions, these little fixes can't be done by answering them on a podcast, right? It has to be seen in person. You have to have that kind of human experience to be able to kind of look at things objectively and then make those changes. And I think, although it's great to have people's questions answered on here, and I think, you know, you do a great job of answering questions on this podcast, you can't beat the human experience. And I think getting yourself to a class, getting yourself to a camp is absolutely the true answer, really. And you could sum up every question that ever comes through this by saying, get yourself to a class. Right?
Yeah, because I think in that environment too, you feel the energy of everybody kind of trying to do the same thing. Right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe it's a lot more tangible. Yeah, I don't know if discouraged is the right way to describe how I'm feeling, but
I think Al brings up a good point as far as like the human interaction. I think this can kind of circle back to one of our last episodes too, where we talked about timing, right? So somebody's asking for advice and they're listening, but they don't hear you, right? Does that make sense? Where they're listening, they absorb it, but they're not actually going to act. I think it plays into timing where, yes, obviously human interaction I think could help bridge that gap sooner, but maybe they're just not ready to make that change yet, right? They're asking for this advice and hoping that it'll just click and resonate, but it is so simple that they're just not ready to come to the terms with the fact that, okay, that is what I have to do, right? So, like I said, I do think human interaction could make it streamline the process a bit, but if they're not ready to focus on one thing for the whole day, then it's just not going to happen, right? It's going to take some kind of like external force to get it to click for them, I guess. That would be my 2 cents on it.
No. Yeah, that's a good way to explain that. And I think that's where the discouragement can sometimes be as somebody in my shoes, is that I talk a lot, right? I do a podcast once a week. We're at these classes all the time. I'm live in the app. I'm doing these posts in the app. So I'm putting a lot of things out there into the ether. And I guess sometimes I just have moments of, are people, is this helping? Ultimately, I want to be able to. Yeah,
because by nature, you're a fixer too. You're a fixer because you're kind of like one of those people that you thrive on being able to answer in a way that you want to help someone, right? You thrive on being able to help people. That's why you're a coach. That's why you do what you do. So being a fixer, you can have a lot of pressure on your shoulders to always have the right answer. And sometimes that can be kind of to almost a detriment to you as well, because that that's always you could liken it to always trying to be the funny guy, right? And I think we talked about it in the last podcast about hosting, right? And always being a good host. That when you play that character and you play the fixer character, that is a lot of pressure on your shoulders. So maybe, just maybe, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. Perhaps that's just you feeling a little bit of pressure from having to always be a fixer. And sometimes you don't have to be. And I think from my personal experience, sometimes when I'm going through a mental health struggle or something and I'll reach out to you, I don't want you to fix me. Sometimes the best thing you could say to me was, dude, that's rubbish. You know, that's rubbish. I really wish I could help, but I can't, but I'm here with you. Right? So being a fixer, that can be a lot of pressure.
And I think it also comes with the frustrations for me of, I do feel like most of the time I can't articulate it well at all.
Okay.
At all. So I guess I'm having, maybe that's the type of day I'm having. And then I feel very good. This morning we went to Heirloom Market. We went to our coffee place, was kind of taking a good look around. I very much felt like what Jim Carrey was saying, and I felt like the world experiencing humans. Like I was just watching this one table and the way that they were interacting and the characters they were playing, so to speak. And I was kind of like, felt like I was living that with them. Like, oh, that would be fun. You know, that they were just like four young kids, kind of dorky looking, but it looked fun. Then looking over to the left, and there was a really, really old couple and one of their friends, and they were sipping coffee, and I kind of pictured myself being them, and that seemed really fun. And then I saw one of the workers kind of stressing out about something and rolling their eyes, and then I kind of looked at that, and I thought that, man, there's something romantic about that even, and that seems like that would be fun. And I was just experiencing all of it. But then I gotta come on this podcast. I'm like, I can't even make sense of anything that I'm saying. I feel very good, but I can't
remember,
we're trying.
We're having deep conversations, you know, and this is deep themed conversation. And sometimes if you're trying to force something, it can feel a little bit like we're getting into muddy water, and that can be frustrating. But I think at the end of the day, we're just human beings, and even, you know, not every conversation has to fix someone. Not every conversation has to be perfect. It's just us being human, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think and maybe this can be related back to the dirt bike. I think I'm at a point in my progression, in my personal evolution, where I feel like I don't know anything. And I know for sure that people have this on the dirt bike too, where it's like, am I getting worse? Why am I felt like I was killing it. I was really, really on a steep incline of just, I was getting better and better. And I feel like I'm a bit stuck. In fact, I don't even feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I went the other way. Like what's going on? And there's 100% through life, as you're learning and as I'm kind of going through just trying to become better and better, I absolutely have those moments as well. And I'm riding a wave of that a little bit right now. I feel like I don't know anything.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's fine.
We're just going to ride the wave.
It means I'm right there at that next cusp. I'm going to enter that genius mode, and then probably as soon as we turn this off, I'll be there.
Just instant genius. I'll keep you posted.
1 minute, 1 hour, 21 minutes. We've done it. What's your upload speed been lately?
It's like -8.
Sweet. We're working in the negatives now. It's good.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you guys will
good.
see this
we'll
podcast in 2029.
Yep, 100%.
We'll put it in a time
I'll be
capsule
82. Yep.
But we've done it. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I was going to be facetious and say to the 2 people still listening, but guess what? Thank you to the 49,000 people listening to this episode 159, right?
Yep. 100%.
Wow.
We did it.
Wow. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. Thanks, guys. Toodles.